jeopardize.
I'm Rod Sterling. You're listening to the Zero Hour.
Suspense. I'm the Whistler.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Who is it?
The Fat Man.
Presents The Man Called X.
The Mysterious Traveler. Another journey into the realm of the strange and terrifying. I hope you will enjoy the trip, that it will thrill you a little and chill you a little. So settle back, get a good grip on your nerves. Where are we going? You'll find out when we get there.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Drama and Theater, brought to you by Duane Old Time Radio. Drama and Theater features some of the best programs from the golden age of radio, including Escape, The Fat Man, Suspense, The Whistler, Zero Hour, Yours Truly Johnny Dollar, and many, many more. Before we start today's drama, if you enjoy what I'm doing, let me ask you to subscribe to my channel. Subscribing is 100% free, and you will receive notifications on new posts. Lastly, if you have a moment, write a short 1 or 2 sentence review or give a rating on your preferred podcast service. A positive review or rating would help me out a lot. And now, on to the drama. And thank you for your support, as always. Welcome to the holiday season, the first week of November. CBS Radio Mystery Theater starts the month. I'm going to start airing 2 episodes of CBS Radio Mystery Theater every month, solely because I have a lot of episodes and it aired for a lot of years, so let's try to get through as much as we can. This post will have episode 21, The Ring of Truth, which aired January 26, 1974. Then episode 22, Time and Time Again, which aired January 27, 1974.
Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. Welcome to the sound of suspense. Welcome to the fear you can hear. But mostly to the world of terrifying imagination. In the next 52 minutes, you'll hear a story about truth. Everyone is in favor of truth, of course. It's a word which produces immediate reverence and respect. But sometimes the truth can be a terrible thing, even a shattering thing.
Oh, my God! Mark, you hit a woman! I told you not to drive so fast!
I didn't see her. I didn't see her crossing the road.
Is she alive? Oh, Mark, look at the way she's lying there!
Lorna, she must be dead. Lorna, you mustn't tell anyone. Please, you mustn't tell anyone.
Our mystery drama, The Ring of Truth, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Henry Slessor and stars Agnes Moorehead. It is sponsored in part by Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, brewers of Budweiser, and by the Kellogg Company, makers of Kellogg's Special K cereal. I'll be back shortly with Act 1.
Some beer drinkers have funny ideas about beer. They think beer improves with age, like wine. Well, find a brewmaster, though. You'll find a beer drinker who knows better. The Budweiser brewmaster says it all depends on how beer is aged. Just letting beer sit in lagering tanks makes it older, not necessarily better. That even goes for keeping a case around the house for a couple of months. But there is one kind of aging that's good for beer. The Budweiser kind. Beechwood aging. In this kind of aging, something happens. It lets all the flavor of the choicest hops and best barley malt that go into Budweiser get through to you. Sure, it takes more time and trouble to brew Budweiser that way, but brewing beer right does make a difference. Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis.
Hey, Ma, what's for dinner?
ShopRite has a beautiful buy to help you serve dinner. Fine imported porcelain china. The beautifully crafted Lovelace pattern by Crown Victoria. An elegant white-on-white platinum-banded pattern to complement any table. Now available only at ShopRite. The basic place-setting pieces, dinner plate, cup and saucer, dessert plate, and bread and butter plate, are just 39 cents. 39 cents each with every $3 purchase. A different place-setting piece is featured each week at this special price. You'll want to collect all the magnificent completer pieces and matching ovenware available every week at low prices, too. Visit ShopRite and start your set of lovely porcelain china today. It's a beautiful buy.
Hey, Ma, what's for dinner? ShopRite has the answer.
Offer not available in Westchester, Ulster, Orange, Dutchess, and Columbia counties.
Now here's Act One of The Ring of Truth. The place, a charming college town in New England. The people you're about to meet, young Lorna Kitteredge and the special man in her life, Mark Kramer. His driving speed, a comfortable 30 miles an hour.
I'll tell you what I resent most about your father, Lorna. It's the fact that he deliberately keeps forgetting my name.
Mark, don't be so silly. Daddy has a genuine problem about names.
No, I'm sorry, darling. I just can't buy this absent-minded professor stuff. It's too corny.
Corny or not, that's exactly what my father is sometimes. Absent-minded. His mind is always up in the stratosphere somewhere, communing with Socrates or Schopenhauer on the meaning of truth. You just don't like my father very much.
I hardly know your father. Look, I want to get along with him, Lorna. After all, he's going to be my father-in-law, isn't he?
You're almost home. What can I do to put you in a better mood?
That's easy, darling. You can promise to tell him tonight.
Oh, Mark. Tonight?
Why not?
But I told you that the Pryors are going to be at dinner tonight. Harold Pryor's Daddy's publisher.
So, after they leave, you can tell him. Lorna, we've been engaged for almost 3 weeks now. Nobody knows about it except you and me.
Well, isn't that enough?
Not for me, it isn't. No. I'm the kind of guy who wants to shout it from the housetops.
Yes, I do, too. I really do, Mark. I love you so much.
All right, darling. Then prove it. Tell him tonight, Lorna. Tell him you're going to marry what's-his-name.
How do you think I'm art? You're quite right, Harold. What the book needs is a much sexier title.
Well, of course, there isn't a word about sex in it, but what's the difference as long as it sells, huh?
What's the latest book about?
Why, truth, of course.
Daddy's favorite subject.
Should be everyone's favorite subject, in my opinion.
You know, if you really want a suggestion for a new title, Professor, I think I have one.
Do you, Mac?
Daddy, the name is Mark.
Oh, yes, of course. I'm sorry, Mark. Well, go on. Let's hear your suggestion.
Why not call it The Ring of Truth?
Well, I think that's a very good name, but, of course, that's up to Professor Kitteredge.
It's not a bad title, Mark, but, well, it does imply a lack of sincerity, doesn't it? The Ring of Truth is only the surface appearance of it. What I'm examining in my book is the necessity for stark truth, for truth unafraid.
Of course, there's a fairly good argument against stark truth sometimes, isn't there? I mean, there's still a necessity for a white lie now and then.
You mean in the real estate business, perhaps?
No, not just in my business, in everyone's. I mean, there are times when tact, and courtesy, and general goodwill call for a shading of the truth.
May I make a suggestion, everyone? Why don't we have our coffee in the living room?
It's a good idea, darling.
George, I wonder...
I'll give you a hand with the dishes, honey. Besides, I'd like a little conversation with you in the kitchen.
All right, Mark. I know what you're going to say. Daddy was impossible tonight.
Now, your father's a great scholar, man of ideals, the Albert Schweitzer of New England. I'm only a poor schnook of a real estate man, but I'm perfectly willing to put up with him for your sake.
Put up with him?
Won't be easy. A crass, materialistic guy like me marrying into all that saintliness. What can I do? I'm crazy about his daughter.
You idiot. Oh, Mark, my hands are wet.
Will you tell him tonight?
Yes, the minute everyone leaves.
He's not going to be happy about it, you know that. He won't be happy about losing you.
Well, he knew it had to happen someday.
All right, then tell him that day has come. Tell him the truth.
I always tell Daddy the truth. Daddy, can I come in?
Yes, darling, of course.
I didn't want to interrupt your reading.
I can't really read this book. I don't understand the language. Have you seen it, by the way? Still another edition, German, of the 7 Secrets of Shakespeare.
It's lovely. What a beautiful binding.
Yes, I'm pleased with it. I suppose an author never loses his affection for the first book he writes.
Well, it's more than just that. This book made you famous.
In very limited circles, yes. And I hope you've enjoyed the evening and that your friend did, too.
The only thing Mark didn't like was being called Max.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, Precious. I hope he wasn't offended. But you have to admit that you do bring home a lot of young men.
Daddy, that may have been true once, but Mark Kramer is the only man I've seen for the last 6 months.
That long?
And the reason I've seen him so much is that, well, I'm in love with him.
Well, that isn't an entirely new phenomenon either, is it?
Daddy, Mark asked me to marry him. I said yes.
Marriage?
You know that word, don't you? It's English, not German.
Yes, I know the word, but, well, it's just that I never supposed you'd want to marry now. I mean, before your doctorate, before you've done all those things we planned to do together.
Marriage wouldn't put an end to our plans. And as for your lecture tour, but you don't really need me along.
I don't know if I'd want to go without you. I'm getting a little old to gallivant around Europe by myself.
Well, it's the first time I've heard you complain about being old.
For some reason, the last 10 seconds, I began to feel old.
Of course, Mark and I could go with you to Europe as a sort of honeymoon.
No, Lorna, he's not going to want that, I'm sure. In fact, my guess is that your young man is going to want to see as little of me as he possibly can.
No, Daddy, that isn't so. He knows that I won't just abandon you. I couldn't be that heartless.
That's the last word I'd use about you, Precious. I know your heart only too well. I know what a tender, beating little thing it is. I've always been afraid of the man who would trap it someday.
I just wish you knew Mark better. He's not a
I'm not saying anything against Mark. I'd feel this way about any man. I'm like the tired old king of the fairy tale, darling, forced by the condition of kingdom to give the hand of his princess to a commoner.
Oh, Daddy. Mark, you're just being pig-headed. It won't even be 6 months. And by that time, I'll have my doctorate, and Daddy's lecture tour will be over.
Oh, that's great. Just great. Waiter, where's the drink I ordered?
Mark, I've never seen you have more than 2 martinis in my life.
Oh, you're wrong, my love. I had one before you got here. The one coming up will be number 4.
Mark, please, don't be so upset. I'm not breaking our engagement. I'm simply asking for a postponement.
How long did he take to talk you into it, Lorna?
Well, it was something I decided to do, Mark. All by myself.
Because you realized how important it was? To get your Ph.D.? To make sure Daddy was taken care of on his lecture tour?
But it is important to me.
You know, you're a lucky girl to have a father like that. Now, you take my old man, good old Charlie Kramer, real estate. I don't think he ever heard of an ethic or an ideal in his life. Probably told a dozen lies a day, old Charlie. I guess that's why he turned out so badly.
You're drinking too much. You always do when you're angry.
Just another flaw in my character. Hardly noticeable in the general ruin of my personality.
Please, Mark, I don't want you to be drunk to drive me home.
Oh, don't worry. I won't even have that 4th drink. See what a nice guy I am? I want to make sure you get home to Daddy safe and sound.
Mark, Are you sure you don't want me to drive?
No, you just leave the driving to us.
It's starting to rain. I think you should turn your wipers on.
That isn't rain, precious. Those are tears in front of your eyes.
Please, Mark.
All right.
Do you have to drive so fast? I know there isn't any traffic, but these roads are so dark.
That's what the headlights are for. How far these little candles throw their beams, so shines a good deed in a naughty world. Hey, you see, your father isn't the only one who can quote you.
What? Look out! That woman!
Where?
Oh! You hit her! Oh, Lord!
I didn't see her. I didn't see her crossing the road, so help me.
Is she dead? Oh, Mark, look at the way she's lying there.
She's dead, Lorna.
Oh.
The woman's dead.
Oh, no. Oh, horrible. I told you not to drive so fast. So awful. And it was my fault. My fault that Mark drank so much. He really doesn't like whiskey very much, but when I told him about what we decided about postponing the wedding...
You mean what you decided, darling? It was your decision.
He was driving so recklessly. He must have been going 60 miles an hour on that road. The speed limit there was only about 30.
They haven't arrested him, have they?
No.
But the police were called, weren't they?
Yes. They know Mark, of course. He's lived here all his life.
Didn't they give Mark a sobriety test?
No, nobody even suggested it. I mean, Mark didn't seem to be drunk at all. Not after it.
And of course, he didn't say he'd been drinking. Didn't mention the speed he was traveling at.
Well, they asked him. Mark said he was going 35, and the woman just stepped out in front of him.
I see.
He had to say it, Daddy. I mean, otherwise it would have been a crime, wouldn't it?
I think it's called vehicular homicide.
Well, he could go to prison for that, couldn't he?
Perhaps.
Oh, Daddy.
Donna, what did you say?
What?
What did you tell them when the police talked to you about the accident?
They didn't. They didn't ask me anything. They said there would be an inquest to determine the facts. I suppose I'd have to answer questions then.
And what will you say then?
Why, I don't know. I mean, I have to corroborate Mark's story, of course.
Is that what you're going to do?
Oh, well, if you could have seen his face, Daddy, it was like a child. Like a little boy, afraid to be punished. He said, "You'll stand by me, Lorna, won't you?"
And so you're going to stand by him. You're going to forget all you ever learned about truth. You're going to lie.
But, Daddy, what else can I do?
I can't advise you, my darling. All I can do is remind you that you and I have always loved truth as much as we've loved each other. Are you going to change now?
And so Lorna finds herself in the corner of a triangle. The man she loves on one side, the father she loves on the other. But the invisible corner of the triangle is that mysterious thing called truth. We'll find out what Lorna Kitteredge does when I return shortly with Act 2.
And now another tale of the ball and chain. At Kellogg's Special K
presents Overweight on an overnight train.
Is the seat taken?
Please, sit down. You have exceptional legs. But why is one of them attached to a ball and chain?
This ball and chain? It's a symbol.
Funny, I would have sworn it was a ball and chain.
I mean symbolic. Because carrying around a few extra pounds can be just like lugging around this ball and chain.
I see. May I suggest something? Try a bowl of Special K, skim milk, orange juice, and coffee. It's the Special K breakfast.
Will it make me lose weight?
No. You must also exercise and eat smart at every meal.
I see.
Do you know the Special K breakfast is less than 240 calories, 99% fat-free, and delicious?
No, but if you hum a few bars...
And that's another tale of the ball and chain.
Your happy ending could begin with the Kellogg's Special K breakfast.
That's Kellogg's Special K. Good night.
This is WOR New York, your Mystery Theater station.
No matter what you're saving for, that's what Suburban Savings for Suburban.
Suburban Savings offers you a regular savings account with flexibility. You can add any amount to your account whenever you wish. Withdraw whenever you want. Suburban Savings pays a 5.25% annual interest rate on regular savings paid quarterly, which earns an annual effective yield of 5.47%. Interest is compounded continuously from day of deposit to day of withdrawal, as long as $50 is maintained in the account to the end of the quarter. Come into Suburban Savings and open an account with flexibility. Our regular savings account in New Jersey at Bayonne, Edgewater, Elmwood Park, Emerson, Hackettstown, Morris Plains, Nutley, Paramus, and Sparta.
Ye shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Will that familiar saying work in the case of Mark Kramer? It may all depend on the outcome of the next conversation you hear in the home of Professor John Kitteredge and his daughter.
Lorna, come in?
Yes, Daddy.
All dressed already?
Yes. I know I don't have to leave for the county courthouse for another hour, but I was too nervous to just lie in bed.
Why don't you come downstairs and have some breakfast with me?
No, I couldn't. I feel too sick.
Oh, poor kitty. I haven't called you that since you were a little child. Or don't you remember me calling her that?
No, not really.
You see, before you were born, I wanted to name you Catherine. But your mother objected because she was certain you'd be nicknamed Kitty. Then you'd be Kitty Kitteredge. And she hated the sound of it.
You've told me the story before.
I know you're not in the mood for old family anecdotes.
All I can think about is that inquest this morning. I'm so frightened. My skin feels like ice.
Darling, you won't have to be frightened if you do what I said. It's only lying that makes us afraid.
Please don't talk about it. I have to lie for Mark. I love him. I'm going to marry him.
Do you think the others will lie? The bartender at that restaurant? What was the name of that again?
Bruno's. Yes. He'll defend Mark. I'm sure he will. They don't like trouble. They had some license problem last year. They won't want to admit that they served Mark so many drinks that he was hardly able to walk. To say nothing of drive.
So you're the only one who has to lie.
Daddy, the woman is dead. Nothing will bring her back. Lies, truth, nothing. Who does it help if Mark goes to prison?
Yes. You're right, precious. There's no profit in truth. None at all.
Then you agree with me?
No profit, Lorna. Only loss, maybe. But that's something you'll have to judge for yourself. You know my feeling about truth. You know what I've always taught you about it.
Yes. Dare to be true. Nothing can need a lie. The fault which needs it most grows too thereby.
You used to like that poem. Now you're quoting it with contempt.
Oh, Daddy, why can't you understand? Why do you have to be so demanding? Let me forget truth just this once.
Your mind is your own, Lorna.
Well, I want to do what's right.
Then do what you want to do. You're an adult now, independent of me. Lie if you want to. But don't look for my approval. And above all, don't ask for my blessing.
Daddy!
Let's have some quiet. The coroner's jury has to hear the testimony if they're going to judge it. Sergeant McKeon, was any investigation made of the skid marks at the scene of the accident with a view to determining the speed of the vehicle?
No, sir, there wasn't. The condition of the road and the rain we had that night, well, it was impossible to tell the difference between the skid marks and the tire treads. That's why no measurement was made.
It's been stated that the driver of the vehicle, Mark Kramer, had left the establishment called Bruno's shortly before the accident. Since Bruno's is in the business of serving hard liquor, among other things,
Did the police give Mr. Kramer a sobriety test?
No, sir, we didn't. You see, sir, we didn't know at the time where Mr. Kramer had been. All we knew was that Mrs. Moger was dead, and Mr. Kramer didn't appear like he'd been drinking.
All right, Sergeant, you can step down.
Thank you.
The coroner's office calls Mr. Kramer to the stand, please. Mr. Kramer, this inquest isn't a trial. Our duty here is simply to determine the cause of death. But you must give your testimony under oath. Please raise your hand on the Bible.
Yes, sir.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, Mr. Kramer. Just tell us your story of what happened the night of the accident.
Well, Miss Kitteredge and I left Bruno's about 9 that evening, about a half hour before the accident. I'd had one drink, vodka martini. You can ask Mr. Bruno about that because he served me.
Go on.
When I reached Route 24, I decided to take the Ridge Road shortcut to town. I was traveling between 30 and 35 miles an hour, I'd say, and I remember slowing down when the rain started. I had my wipers going when I came over the rise of the hill, so my windshield was clear. But I still didn't see Mrs. Moger when she stepped out into the road directly in front of the car.
Were your lights on full beam?
Yes, sir, they were.
Why do you suppose Mrs. Moger didn't see them?
I don't really know. What I think is she was almost across the road when I came over the rise, and she panicked when she realized that a car was coming. She started back in the wrong direction, and that was when she stepped in front of the car.
Is that your entire testimony?
Yes, sir, it is.
Very well, Mr. Kramer. You can return to your seat. Will Miss Lorna Kitteredge take the chair, please? Place your hand on the Bible, Miss Kitteredge.
Yes.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please speak up, Miss Kitteredge.
I do.
Miss Kitteredge, you were with Mr. Kramer on the night of the accident.
Yes.
You went with him to the place called Bruno's.
Yes, I did.
And did you have a drink that night?
Yes, I had a martini.
The same as Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
When Mr. Kramer's car approached Mrs. Moger's driveway, did you see the lady before the automobile struck her?
I'm not sure. I think I saw her for just a split second. And then the car hit her. It was all terribly unreal.
Were you aware of the speed you were traveling at? Miss Kitteredge?
I'm not sure of the exact speed.
Mr. Kramer thinks it was between 30 and 35. Do you agree with that?
No.
What was that?
It couldn't have been that. It was more like 55 or 60.
Did you say 60, Miss Kitteredge?
About that, yes.
Lorna, for God's sake.
I hope you've considered this reply, Miss Kitteredge.
Yes, I've considered it. We were traveling at least that. I'd been looking at the speedometer only a few minutes before. I was complaining to Mark about his speed, but he wouldn't listen to me. He wasn't in any mood to listen. He was angry, and he was drunk.
Please, everybody, quiet now. Mr. Kramer, please take your seat.
It's the truth. The truth, I can't help myself. He was drinking. He had too many martinis, and he was drunk.
Are you telling us he had more than one drink?
He had 4. I know he did. And he drove like a madman. No matter how I tried to stop him, he never thought that woman would be on the road at that time of night. He wouldn't listen. I couldn't believe it was really happening. It was like hearing someone else say the words.
Please don't cry, Kitty.
I tried not to look at his face. I tried so hard not to see him, but I couldn't stop myself.
How can you blame yourself for telling the simple truth? How can you think it's wrong?
But don't you realize what'll happen to him, Daddy? He's going to be indicted. He may go to prison.
I'm sure Mr. Kramer will hire himself a very smart attorney.
Who's that?
I have no idea.
Oh, I can't see anyone now. I just can't.
Yes, of course. You go to your room and I'll answer it.
Go on, darling. Go lie down.
Yes.
Oh, it's you.
I want to see Lorna.
Mark, please listen to me. I know exactly how you're feeling at the moment.
Thanks for remembering my name, Professor. That must be the very first time.
I'm sure you realize that what Lorna did this morning was extremely difficult and painful for her. That it was an agonizing decision.
Only who made it?
Lorna's lying down right now. I suggest you try telephoning her later.
I'm not leaving until I see her.
I had hoped we wouldn't get violent about all this, Mark. Frankly, I don't think you're in a good position to commit any other rash actions.
Daddy, it's all right.
Lorna, I thought you were in your room.
I'll talk to Mark.
Very well. But don't ask me to leave, because I won't.
You don't have to leave, Professor. I'd like you to know this, too.
Know what?
What the town gossips are saying. Lorna, they're saying that we had some kind of fight. A lover's quarrel, and that you wanted to get back at me.
Oh, you know that's not so.
Yes, I know it. But the other explanation makes even less sense. That you just had to tell the truth.
Well, it wasn't easy for me. Lies would have been easier.
One small lie, Lorna. That was all you had to say. You're so afraid of hell that you wouldn't lie for me?
I can't expect you to understand.
But I do understand. Better than you do, maybe. It was your father's idea.
Now, just a moment, Kramer.
Well, you remember my last name, too. I think I made more of an impression on you than you were willing to admit.
There's no need to be nasty.
Lorna, you're so stuck on the truth. Tell it now. He told you what to do in that courtroom. Professor Kitteredge's little girl always listens to Daddy, and she never lies.
Please, Mark.
He insisted that you tell the truth, didn't he? He gave you a lot of high-flown ethical reasons for telling the truth. Nothing but the truth. Every reason but the real one.
You're wrong. I made up my own mind.
Your father knew what would happen. It would split us apart, and that's what he really wanted, Lorna. That's the truth that he didn't mention.
I think that's quite enough. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police.
Don't bother, Professor. You've done a very good job. On Lorna and on me.
Oh, Daddy. Daddy.
Kitty, don't. It's going to be all right.
How can it be? He hates me now. Mark hates me.
Things will change. You wait and see. He'll get himself a smart lawyer, and nothing will happen to him.
Mark Kramer, having been found guilty of the crime of manslaughter, it is my duty to sentence you to imprisonment for a period of not less than 1 year and not more than 5.
And so the truth has not set Mark Kramer free. It sent him to prison, where he'll have plenty of time to ponder the complexities of ethics, justice, and human nature. Or perhaps he'll ponder something else, like revenge. We'll find out when I return shortly with Act 3.
I'm Hy Brown, producer of Radio Mystery Theater, and this is the end of our last week of prize drawings. Just send us your name and address tonight to be eligible for one of 50 prizes: 2 AM/FM stereo phonos, 2 travel clock radios, and 46 anthologies of modern suspense. We've been most gratified by the program comments so far. So, if you have a chance to write, we hope you will. And let us know a bit about you, who you are, what you do, how old you are. But your name and address are enough. To Mystery Theater, Box 50, Radio City Station, New York, 10019. That's Box 50, Radio City Station, New York, 10019. Entries must be postmarked no later than tonight, the 26th. Offer good everywhere unless locally prohibited.
This is WOR New York, your station for the Mystery Theater.
An invitation. This is Peter Roberts. Join us Sunday morning, 8:15 to 10 here on WOR for Rambling with Roberts. 2 hours of music, specially selected for Sunday morning listening pleasure, along with bits of weather information, news headlines, bits of trivia, such as the fact that a man from Onowa, Iowa, received a patent for what he called Eskimo pie, which was ice cream coated with chocolate. It all happened in 1922. It may not seem like very much in the way of history, but it does take place, these little bits of trivia and information, on Rambling with Roberts. So, of a Sunday morning, make a note. 8:15 to 10, right here at 710 on your dial. Come Rambling with Roberts. You don't have to give us an RSVP. Just be on hand. Thank you.
It's now 1 year later. Sad to say, Mark Kramer is still wearing prison gray. As for Professor Kitteredge, he's had problems too. A bad case of the gout caused cancellation of his European lecture tour. Even more disappointing, his daughter Lorna lost interest in working on her thesis and abandoned the idea of obtaining her doctorate. In fact, Lorna Kitteredge seems to have lost interest in life itself.
Lorna, you awake?
Yes, Daddy. I'm up.
Darling, it's almost noon. It's not like you to be in bed so late.
I just didn't feel like getting up.
Did you sleep badly again last night?
Last night, the night before that.
Oh, Lorna. If you don't see Dr. Isaacs voluntarily, I may have to drag you to his office.
You know there's nothing wrong with me.
What's all this paper for? All those little crumpled balls.
Can't you guess?
Oh, Lorna, no. You haven't been writing Mark again?
I keep thinking that I might hit on exactly the right words. The magic formula that would make him answer one letter. Just one letter.
You know that's not possible, darling. Face it, the man is filled with bitterness. He blames you for something he did to himself.
Probably never reads any of the letters I send him. Probably sees my handwriting and tears them up immediately.
It would be so much better if you forgot him, Lorna.
Do you know that I even thought of sending him a disguise letter? Making it look like some important document that he would have to read? Isn't that ridiculous?
What's ridiculous is the way you've tortured yourself over that man for so many months.
Who's tortured who, Daddy? Which one of us is really guilty?
Oh, Kitty.
Stop calling me that name. My name is Lorna. Can't you remember my name?
Darling, you're just not yourself.
Oh, is that why you can't remember me? Because I'm somebody else? Well, you may be right, Daddy. Every morning I look in the mirror and I can't recognize the woman I see.
Lorna, you're just not giving yourself a chance to forget. You'd start getting out into the world, start meeting new people. You become a hermit.
I thought you liked having me here, Daddy. I thought you couldn't live without my company.
I honestly believe you need medical attention. If not from Dr. Isaacs, then from somebody else.
You mean a psychiatrist, I suppose?
No, darling, no. Just someone who can help you get over this distorted guilt that you feel.
The only one who can do that is Mark. And he won't see me or write me or anything.
Lorna.
Oh, please go away. Please. I'm going to try to sleep. It's the only time I'm happy. When I'm asleep.
All right. Step right over here, Kramer.
Anything you say, guard.
Remember, visiting time is limited to 15 minutes.
Look, I don't want the 15 minutes. They're being forced on me.
Sit down and behave yourself.
Yes, sir. Anything you say, sir.
Well, no, Mark.
Make it fast, Professor. I've got important matters to take care of back in the shop. I'm making a very special license plate.
Mark, I know you resent the fact that I've forced this encounter. Took some doing, believe me.
Uh-huh. Why did you go to all the trouble?
Because it's a matter of health. Lorna's health.
She's pining away for me, is that it? Well, tell her to stop, Professor. My nights are filled with sweet dreams, and she is in none of them. You tell her that for me.
I want you to see her, Mark.
Oh, I wouldn't force that issue, Professor. I don't have anything nice to say to your daughter.
You misunderstood Lorna. Couldn't expect you to applaud what she did in court. But if you really thought about the ideals that motivated her...
Whose ideals? Yours or hers?
Do I have to separate them?
Yes. But you can't, Professor. Because she's your monster. You've got her all twisted up between her ethics and her instincts. I suppose you're proud of the result, but it's a fake.
There's nothing fake about her principles.
She doesn't have principles. All she has is you. Her shining example. She wants you to love and admire her, so she does what you expect. That's why Daddy's little girl always tells the truth.
She does tell the truth. Always.
And her father?
I abominate lies.
You won't even lie to yourself. Then tell me this. Weren't you happy when Lorna and I broke up? Didn't it save your happy home?
I can see that coming here was a mistake.
You're a hypocrite, Professor. This whole thing was your doing, and I'll never let you forget it.
Goodbye, Mark.
Wait a minute. There's something you should know.
What's that?
I'm being paroled next week. Tell that to your daughter. Maybe it'll improve her health.
Of course I'm pleased, Harold. It's just that I'd much rather see a new book of mine published than a new edition of an old book.
Well, you can't argue with success. People never seem to tire of the 7 Secrets of Shakespeare.
I suppose I shouldn't complain. It does buy the groceries.
Just cash the royalty checks and be happy. Now, tell me how Lorna's doing. Feeling any better?
Oh, still a bit run down, I guess.
Well, that's too bad. I suppose you know that young man, Kramer, that he's out of prison.
For about 2 months now, I gather.
He, hasn't been in touch with Lorna?
No, and I don't think he will be.
Funny thing is, he's been in touch with us.
With you? What's that before?
Well, actually, it seems he went to Merritt Bob's first.
My first publishers?
Yes, talked to everyone who would talk to him. Then he approached members of my own staff. He even tried to get an appointment with me, but I put him off.
What do you suppose he wants? He's an embittered young man, you know.
Well, I spoke to George Merritt. He didn't know about Lorna and this fella Kramer. He thought Kramer was an article writer looking for biographical material. George said that he seemed to know an awful lot about you already.
I don't much like the idea of someone like that snooping into my life.
Why do you suppose he's doing it?
Hard to say. Rancor, I suppose. Hopes he can find something unpleasant in my past. I'll get it, Lorna. Hello?
Professor Kitteredge?
Yes?
Mark Kramer, Professor.
Oh. Yes, I was just speaking about you the other day with my publisher.
I'd like to see you, Professor, this evening, if that's possible.
See me? Or Lorna?
No, just you. If Lorna wants to be there, that's her business. Something tells me she'd rather stay away.
Can you give me some idea of why you want to see me?
You might say it's a business matter.
Who is it, Daddy?
What time would be good for you, Professor?
Make it about 9.
I'll make it exactly 9.
Daddy, you look so strange. Who was that on the phone?
It was Mark Kramer, Lorna.
Mark?
He's asked me to see him at 9 tonight. I have no idea what he wants to say, but whatever it is, I'm sure it won't be anything pleasant.
I'd rather not be here.
I didn't think you would. Mark blames me for what happened in court, not you. He refuses to admit that it was your own love of truth.
My love of truth? Daddy, you never understood me yourself. How could you explain me to someone else? I didn't love truth. I loved Mark.
You did what you had to do. What your conscience told you to do.
My conscience? Is that what I was satisfying? That small little voice inside me?
It can be a loud voice, darling. A very compelling
But
voice.
I still hear it. It's still talking to me. And you know what it's saying? You fool. You fool, you fool.
Lorna.
I think I'll go out now, Daddy. Right now.
Good evening, Professor.
Hello, Mark. Come in.
Thank you. Nice of you to see me. I wasn't sure of my reception after the last time. I see you're using a cane these days, Professor.
Yes, a touch of gout. Mark, I hope you weren't expecting to see Lorna. She's not here.
No, I didn't expect to see her.
Would you care to come to the point of this visit?
Yes, Professor. I'll come to the point. I've come to see you about truth.
Oh, must we, Mark? Really? I mean, these philosophical discussions are meat and drink to old campus fogies like me, but I'm rather tired of the subject right now, very tired of it.
Frankly, I'm a little exhausted by it myself. I've just spent 2 months in search of it, and I didn't even know what I was looking for.
You've been digging up things about me, haven't you? I hope you enjoyed yourself.
No, I didn't. You see, I made the mistake of talking to your enemies. The publishers you dropped, the friends you no longer see, the scholars you had disputes with.
What did you get out of that?
Nothing. Your enemies didn't have the truth about you, Professor. Only your friends did. Like Avery Hayes.
Avery Hayes?
Oh, I'm glad to see you remember the name. Strange how few people do. Even though you dedicated your 4th, or was it your 5th book to him? George Merritt knew him, of course. Mr. Merritt called you Avery's benefactor. Said that Hayes was an alcoholic that you took care of for many years.
He was my friend.
Yes, he was a good friend, and you were good to him. That was one chapter of your past that you had every reason to be proud of, wasn't it?
Avery's been dead for 10 years. What did you want from him?
Nothing, Professor. I just thought a man like that deserved a little recognition, if only for his past association with you. So I talked to people who knew him, his old pals, his family. He still has a brother alive, you know, a crotchety old fellow in the terminal ward at the county hospital. His name's Ezra. Perfect name for the old boy. And you know what? He still has the junk Hayes left when he died. That pitiful collection of books and papers.
You don't expect me to believe that about Avery's papers? Avery never kept anything, not a thing. He was a foolish, drunken old...
He was also brilliant, wasn't he? Went to the university on a scholarship. You only beat him out for top honors because of his drinking.
You're talking about 40 years
He
ago.
was drunk and he was dishonest, too, wasn't he, Professor? That was how he sustained that wild life of his, by selling his scholastic services to anybody who could pay for them.
It's not different today.
Yes. That's what Avery said in his letter. The one he wrote to a woman named Jean. I didn't know who Jean was or why Avery never mailed the letter, but there it was. Avery said he was cleaning up $100, $200 a month and would surely be able to pay back all he owed before the end of the semester. And then he mentioned the thesis. The big job he was doing, that he expected $300 for that job alone. You know which thesis I mean, Professor?
Please go. Get out of here. I've had enough of this lying filth.
The 7 Secrets of Shakespeare. Sounds like a mystery story, doesn't it? But it was quite a piece of work. And it became more than just a college thesis. It became a world-famous book. It made your reputation, Professor.
You're a liar. A liar. You know nothing about it.
You paid Avery for his work and put your name on it. You might have done as well yourself, but you were young and lazy, and you had the money to pay for it. Then you discovered how good it really was, and it was too late for both of you to change the course of history.
Get out of this house now. Get out.
I'm going, Professor. I just wanted you to hear this little story about truth. And also to tell you that I have Avery Hayes' letter.
What did you say?
I have his letter, Professor. It tells the whole story. Good night.
Mark!
You told me to go, and I'm going.
You filthy animal! Kitteredge! Go, you monster! I'll kill you! Kill you, you animal!
Daddy!
Kill you!
Daddy!
Like a wild beast!
Oh, my God! What have you done?
Lorna!
Daddy!
Lorna! Oh, thank heaven you're here.
Oh,
thank heaven.
Look at his head. Oh, dear Lord.
You saw what happened.
Oh.
What the crazy fool did, he attacked me.
You killed him with your cane.
He attacked me, Lorna. You know how much he hated me? I had to defend myself.
No, I saw what happened. I saw you strike him from behind.
No, Kitty, no. He tried to kill me. That's why I hit him.
Daddy, I saw everything. You killed Mark. You did it deliberately. That's the truth. You always taught me to tell the truth. It's the only important thing. The truth.
Oliver Wendell Holmes, Jr. said, "All I mean by truth is the road I can't help traveling." Well, Professor Kitteredge traveled his road, and despite his good intentions, it turned out to be the road to hell. I'll be back shortly.
Hello, this is Joe Franklin. Ladies and gentlemen and boys and girls, for the very latest in nostalgia, for the ultimate in remembering, please join with me on Saturday nights from 9:05 to 11 o'clock, where memories are truly happening right here over WOR Radio. It is my privilege to present radio's original Memory Lane program, but positively the original. And whether it's Al Jolson or Benny Goodman or Louis Armstrong or Eddie Cantor or Harry James or the Dorseys, Mario Lanza, Gene Krupa, the young Frank Sinatra, George M. Cohan, Bing Crosby, Bogart, Lombard, Cagney, and all those happy times of radio's comedy and drama and soap opera. We have it fascinatingly, and all the sounds are reproduced crystal clear Saturday nights from 9:05 till 11 over WOR Radio. Yours truly, Joe Franklin, hosting Memory Lane. Tune in.
If there is a moral to the story you've just heard, it's not that truth is so bad. But Samuel Butler said, truth should not be absolutely lost sight of, but it should not be talked about. And we promise that's our last word on the subject. Our cast included Agnes Moorehead, Mandel Kramer, Santos Ortega, Ian Martin, and Dan Ocko. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown.
I swear to Sam Hill, Ethan, you deliver.
After the 12th stroke of the hourglass clock's chime, there was no sound but the beat of the clock and my own heart. Everything else had stopped dead. My friend's mouth was frozen in the act of speaking, his hand poised over a chessman as though cast in bronze. Outside, like the old child's game, people had turned to statues. A car backing into a parking space was stopped in its tracks. For everyone else in the world, save only me and that damnable clock, time was standing still.
This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
WOR Mystery Theater was brought to you by ShopRite Supermarkets, where you get a lot more for a little less, and by Suburban Savings, with offices throughout North Jersey. The preceding Mystery Theater program was furnished by the CBS Radio Network. The late news is next at 9, followed by Joe Franklin and Memory Lane here on WOR New York, an RKO General station. Good evening. News at 9 from the WOR newsroom. This is Bill Maher reporting. The fast-paced Secretary of State is in New York for the weekend. He'll be meeting tomorrow with UN Secretary General Kurt Waldheim to fill him in on the diplomatic goings-on that brought about a settlement between Israel and Egypt. Just what the Secretary's plans for today and this evening are, nobody's saying. One of the Secretary's favorite companions, Nancy McGinnis, lives in New York, but all aides will say about Kissinger's plans is he has personal business. President Nixon can be impeached for abuses of political power, even though he may not have violated criminal law. This, according to a study just released by the New York Bar Association. The U.S. Constitution says the president can be impeached for, quote, high crimes and misdemeanors. According to the Bar Association's report, this phrase comes from English law and refers to acts which undermine the integrity of the government, as well as purely criminal acts. Among those activities designated by the report as impeachable were corruption or flagrant abuse of power, acts which undermine the public trust, and acts performed by presidential appointees that constitute high crimes and misdemeanors if unchecked by the president. The upcoming trial of two former cabinet members has prompted the Senate Watergate Committee to postpone its public hearing scheduled to begin Tuesday. Committee Chairman Sam Ervin says the panel is putting off the hearings to avoid possibly prejudicing the trial of former Attorney General John Mitchell and former Commerce Secretary Maurice Stans. No new date for the hearing has been set. A spokesman for the Capitol Hill leadership has said the Democrats in Congress will cooperate with President Nixon in meeting the energy crisis. But, said California Democrat John McFall, the White House must reciprocate. McFall spoke on national radio in response to President Nixon's energy address last week. The congressman said the first positive step the administration could take is to withdraw its opposition to a provision of the Emergency Energy Act attacking excessive oil company profits. The captain of that Bulgarian fishing vessel seized off the New Jersey shore today for allegedly fishing within the 12-mile U.S. coastal limit has denied his trawler trespassed. The captain, Peter Todorov-Donchev, said in New York, where he was brought by the Coast Guard, that his vessel was 13.5 miles out to sea when his ship was overtaken by the Coast Guard cutter Unimak. Turkish officials still are seeking an explanation for a jetliner crash which claimed the lives of at least 62 persons this morning. The plane went down shortly after takeoff from Izmir, causing what authorities call the worst air disaster in Turkey's history. The U.S. Embassy in Ankara says two of those killed were identified as New Jersey residents, Dr. and Mrs. Horace Gerard of 41 Knox Road in Tenafly. Well, 51% of the population is female, and Governor Brendan Byrne isn't taking chances with their votes. The New Jersey governor has spoken before the state's first meeting of female public servants, and he promised to give serious consideration to the problems facing women. Byrne asked the group assembled in Princeton for help in recruiting qualified women for jobs in state government. The governor said he has tried to appoint a woman as state education commissioner, but said he received virtually no applications from females. The weather for New York City and vicinity, mild with occasional rain tonight and again tomorrow. Low tonight in the low 40s, high Sunday in the mid-50s, mostly cloudy Sunday night and Monday with a chance of showers Sunday night, and the low Sunday night in the low 40s. At the moment in cloudy Midtown Manhattan with some very light rain falling, the temperature at 44 degrees, humidity 86%, wind southeast at 4 miles per hour, the barometer 30.21 and falling. That's the news at 9. Bill Maher in the WOR newsroom.
Your AMC dealer's got the all-new mid-size car that economizes on everything but comfort. That car, the roomy 74 Matador. And another important advantage. Our 74 Matador comes with an economical 6-cylinder engine as standard equipment. And consider this. Matador is the only new mid-size car backed by all the benefits of the exclusive AMC Buyer Protection Plan, which means that under normal usage and accepting tires, if anything AMC did goes wrong with your new 74 Matador in the first 12 months or 12,000 miles, we'll fix or replace it free. Come in today. Meet the unbeatable combination. 74 Matador backed by the AMC Buyer Protection Plan.
See your AMC dealer where you get a good deal and a good deal more. And stay tuned for Joe Franklin's Memory Lane next on WOR New York, an RKO General station.
This is WOR New York.
Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. Welcome to the fear you can hear. Welcome to the sounds of suspense. It was the ill-fated Prince of Denmark, Hamlet, who lamented, "The time is out of joint. Oh, cursed spite, that ever I was born to set it right." Many people before and since have echoed the same cry of despair, but none with more compelling justice and reason than Ethan Vigil, clockmaker and destroyer. Ethan Vigil, for whom a special clock struck a magic and an evil hour.
Got your box in. Your move, Jake.
No, don't rush me. I'm thinking. God in heaven, Ethan, how can you stand that infernal racket?
What? What rack? Oh, you mean the clock striking? I don't even notice it anymore. Well, go ahead. What do you want to give up?
No. Who can think of a chess move with all hell breaking loose? From now on, start our games after midnight. Have to drive a man stark, staring mad. I swear to Sam Hill, Ethan, you deliver.
The only two living things left in the room at that terrifying moment, as time stood still, were myself and that damnable machine.
Our mystery drama, Time and Again, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Ian Martin and stars John Beal. It is sponsored in part by Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, brewers of Budweiser, and by the Kellogg Company, makers of Kellogg's Special K cereal. I'll return shortly with Act One.
When you drink beer, do you tilt the glass for long, hearty swallows? Or just tip it and sip it? Well, sipping's the thing for wine. But Budweiser beer is a hearty drink, brewed for zest and character. The best way to enjoy Bud is to drink it. Not chug-a-lug, just man-sized beer drinker swallows. That's when that famous Budweiser taste, smoothness, and drinkability really come through. Smoothness and drinkability that come only from natural carbonation and exclusive beechwood aging. Smoothness and drinkability, too good for any half-hearted sipping. So drink up. You'll see that brewing beer right does make a difference. And that when you say Budweiser, you've said it all. Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis.
No matter what you're saving for, that's what Suburban Savings for Suburban.
Suburban Savings offers you a regular savings account with flexibility. You can add any amount to your account whenever you wish. Withdraw whenever you want. Suburban Savings pays a 5.25% annual interest rate on regular savings paid quarterly, which earns an annual effective yield of 5.47%. Interest is compounded continuously from day of deposit to day of withdrawal, as long as $50 is maintained in the account to the end of the quarter. Come into Suburban Savings and open an account with flexibility. Our regular savings account in New Jersey at Bayonne, Edgewater, Elmwood Park, Emerson, Hackettstown, Morris Plains, Nutley, Paramus, and Sparta.
Few of us can resist the fascination of an auction, and I'm no different than most, which is how and why I happen to possess this curious document which reveals a bone-chilling account of how many lives were lost so uncannily and eerily to the inhuman demands of what Ethan Vigil called that damnable machine. The tale I'm about to tell... No, wait. If you can manage to decipher his cramped longhand, let Ethan Vigil confess for himself.
I, Ethan Vigil, clockmaker by trade, am writing this in case, when the moment comes, I fail to destroy the hourglass clock. For if I fail, someone must destroy it, kill it, end its ghastly existence before God knows how many innocent people will die to satisfy its insatiable thirst. The clock itself came into my possession more or less by accident. I was working late at my shop one night about a year ago, and I heard a tapping on the closed glass door. Tarnation, some people can't read signs. Darn fools like to break that glass. Stop that! Can't you see I'm closed?
Hey, Kramer, please. Let me in.
Oh, get on with you.
You won't be sorry. Give me a chance. I'll give you the chance of a lifetime.
Look.
It was raining heavily, the water streaming down the glass, but the object he had drawn from the cover of his pea jacket drew my eyes like a magnet. It was a clock, the like of which I'd never seen. It was shaped like an hourglass, with a strange appearing pendulum hanging in the lower half and the face in the upper half. And in the place of the figure 12, at the top of the face, was the numeral 13. I had to see that clock more closely.
Oh, bless you, Governor. You're a lifesaver, you are.
What do you want?
Oh, I want you to have a look at this here clock.
The clock is the only reason I let you in. I'd like to have a look at it myself. Let's take it over to the bench. You want this clock repaired?
I want to sell it to you, is what I want.
I hope I don't regret this, but come on to my place in the back. Huh? There's a fire in there to dry you up a bit. You better back up to that fire. Where'd you get this clock?
Why, it came into my possession when its owner died.
Does it run?
Well, no. That there clock, it doesn't run. I'd be the first to admit it.
I'll give you $20.
Oh, now, look here.
$20. Take it or leave it.
Well, I may be down and out, but I know a good thing when I see it, and I don't intend to be taken advantage of by somebody else.
There doesn't seem to be any question of who's being taken advantage of.
Harriet.
Ethan, who is this person?
He's a customer, more or less. This is my sister-in-law.
It's near on to midnight, and my poor sick sister is pining upstairs for her husband to bring her a little faith and consolation.
Oh, now, Mom, I certainly am sorry to intrude on family problems.
Then don't. Ethan, get rid of this man.
You better go.
Yeah, but what about our business and the clock?
Well, $20 is all I have to my name.
I'll take it.
Don't you do it, Ethan.
Oh, mind your own business for once, Harriet. I had little doubt my sailor, who called himself Harry Stubbs, had dubious title to that strange clock. But like all collectors, to own something totally and unreservedly unique is an overriding obsession.
Is he gone?
Yes.
Oh, just look at this place after you had that derelict in here. Lights on all over the place, eating up money. To say nothing of good hard cash thrown away on that piece of junk on the table.
It was my own money.
What own money? Oh, you and Henrietta wouldn't even have a roof over your heads, let alone a piece of business, if it weren't for me. Oh, no, it's my money that keeps you going, and don't you forget it. Now, you lock the door to the shop.
I still have some repairs left to do.
You'll have to get up early tomorrow and do them.
I just wanted to have another look at this clock.
You'll waste no more time or light or fuel down here tonight. If it wasn't for good money paid out, I'd take that piece of junk on the table and dump it in the rubbish.
How I wish she'd done just that. Let the city collect it with the morning trash and bury it forever. But fate hadn't planned it that way. So I went upstairs from Harriet to face another problem I didn't know how to solve. My ailing wife, Henrietta.
Ethan, is that you?
Yes, Henrietta.
Where have you been?
Working, dear. Are you hurting?
Oh, when don't I hurt?
I know. How's your back?
It isn't my back. It's my stomach, Ethan. I'm scared. I've been afraid to think of it, but I know Harriet's sure I've got...
Hush, no, none of that. You just get off to sleep. That's what you need.
You just don't know how it is to be suffering every blessed minute of every day.
As I slipped under the covers and lay wide awake beside Henrietta, snoring away, my mind went back to the strange clock on the table downstairs. The intriguing mystery of a mechanism I had never even imagined in 40 years of clockmaking. And the enigma of why 13 replaced the numeral 12 on the face. All the next morning, between my infrequent customers, I puzzled and poked and tried to reveal the workings of this bizarre clock. But by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, when I was completely stymied, My wife surprised me by coming out to the bench in her bathrobe. Henrietta, what's wrong?
I've been calling for someone. Where's Harriet?
Well, she went to market. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, I've got those blinding headaches again. Could we send for Dr. Royce? Is that the old clock that Harriet told me you threw away hard-earned money on?
It's a very valuable antique, an original. And it was my money.
Does it run?
No.
And what good is it?
It's worth $20 as it is, at least. In working condition, it could be priceless.
Can you fix it?
Oh, I don't know.
Why not?
Well, look at it, Henrietta. Have you ever seen anything like it? First of all, the hourglass shape of the case.
What's inside?
Well, that's the problem. Except for the two round glass windows. And they're not even glass. I don't know what they are.
What window?
Well, the one for the clock face in the upper cup, if you want to call it that, and the one in the lower inverted cup, where you can see what looks like a pendulum.
Oh, can't you shake it and get that to swing?
That doesn't seem to be the way it's activated. It's quite stationary.
Funny lopsided shape. Maybe it melted or something. Can't you get into the works?
Well, only through this lid on the top. Now, look. There's all you can see of the works. Very old. Wooden gears, wooden pinions, wooden axles. No way to lift it out. In fact, I can't even get my hand in there to try.
Let me. It's so silly. There must be some way to... Ow!
What is it?
Look what your silly old clock has done.
What's the matter?
My finger is bleeding. It felt like something bit me.
Oh, come on, let me see. It's just a scratch. Scarcely drew blood.
Just the same, I'm not taking any chances with that dirty old clock. I could end up with blood poisoning. I'm going to run this underwater. Now, you get me a bandage and some disinfectant.
Right with you. I was suddenly aware that the clock was running. And its beat was the sound of the human heart.
But Ethan didn't follow his wife right away, because suddenly he had become conscious that the dead clock had come to life, that it had started to record time again, and that the sound of its beat was very different from all other clocks. It was a sound akin, if not completely similar, to the beat of the human heart. I shall return shortly with Act 2.
And now another tale of the ball and chain. At Kellogg's Special K presents
the good, the bad, and the heavy.
Why is that cowboy wearing a ball and chain?
Because carrying around extra pounds can be just like carrying around a ball and chain.
How symbolic. What will it be, senor?
Give me the Special K breakfast.
Here you go. For a Special K, skim milk, orange juice, and coffee. Say, don't I know you from someplace?
You probably don't recognize me with my ball and chain. I used to be 10 pounds lighter, but I'm getting back that way by exercising and eating smart at every meal. Starting with this year's Special K breakfast.
What's so special?
It's less than 240 calories, 99% fat-free, and delicious. It's going to help me get rid of this here ball and chain.
I bet your horse will be glad to hear that.
another ball and chain. Fight but gust.
Your happy ending could begin with the Kellogg's Special K breakfast.
That's Kellogg's Special K.
That's right.
Good night.
This is WOR New York, your Mystery Theater station.
Hey, Ma, what's for dinner? Hey, Ma, what you got? Hey, Ma, will it be much longer? My hunger gets stronger and I can't wait. She loves the family. She wants the best. She does all that she can do. She lets ShopRite do the rest. Hey, Ma,
What's for dinner? How about Armour canned ham, 3-pound size, $3.99. ShopRite grade A frozen green beans, 9-ounce packages, 6 for $1. ShopRite dairy case homestyle biscuits, 8-ounce packages, 5 for 49 cents.
She loves the family. She wants the best. She does all that she can do. She lets ShopRite do the rest. Hey, Ma, what's for dinner? ShopRite has the answer.
Whatever his wife had accidentally touched, the clock had begun to run and remained running steadily. without any sign of stopping. Ethan checked that Henrietta's wound was little more than a surface scratch and returned to observe... But let him tell his own story for himself, as he wrote it in his confession.
My examination of the clock as it ran made it even more of an enigma. Behind the face, beneath the lid, the gears I saw engage, second by second, operated the hands that told the time. What motivated them was obvious, the strange mass that I had supposed a pendulum weight, but which now, quite clearly, was a diaphragm or pump, opening and closing to create energy, in a motion like a human fist, or... Yes, suddenly I knew why the irregular shape was familiar, like the human heart. But what, in turn, motivated that, or fueled it, was the ultimate mystery. Everything about this clock was different, exotic, strange. Even its chime for the hours, plangent, plaintive, almost the sound of a human voice. I watched it irresistibly all day, all during the night, while I waited for Dr. Jacob Royce to come and examine my wife. Even while I waited for the result of that examination.
What the devil are you doing out here, Ethan?
I'm sorry, Jake. Just observing this clock. It's got me mesmerized. How's Henrietta?
Oh, what am I going to tell you, Ethan?
Same thing as usual.
Yep. Not a trace of any physiological problem. Never is. Oh, there's a name for it if it's of any help. Chronic inadequate. Someone who just can't handle the simple process of life and has to make excuses for it.
I'd better go up to her.
Oh, there's no need. I gave her a sedative. Won't hurt her, but it might do you some good. Come on now. Let's play chess.
If I set us up out here, all right?
With all those clocks rattling away?
I want to keep my eye on this baby here.
If you can't sit up with one sick friend, you gotta sit up with another.
And for the next 10 or 15 minutes, I did forget the clock that was to haunt the rest of my days. Inexorably, as we concentrated on the chessboard, all of the clocks ticked on towards 12 o'clock. And the moment when the explanation of that substitute number 13 was about to be made by the clock itself. Don't think much of your king's pawn variation, Jake. Got you boxed in. Your move.
Don't rush me. Don't rush me. I'm thinking. Good Lord, Ethan. How can you stand that infernal racket?
Huh? What racket? Oh, you mean the clock striking? I don't even notice them anymore. Huh? Go ahead. What do you want to give up?
No. But who can think of a chess move with all hell breaking loose? From now on, we start our games after midnight. Enough to drive a man stark, staring mad. I swear to Sam Hill, Ethan, you deliver.
After the 12th stroke of the hourglass clock's chime, there was no sound but the beat of the clock and my own heart. Everything else had stopped dead. My friend's mouth was frozen in the act of speaking. His hand poised over a chessman as though cast in bronze. Outside, like the old child's game, people had turned to statues. A car backing into a parking space was stopped in its tracks. The very raindrops hung motionless in the air like a spangled curtain. For everyone else in the world, save only me and that damnable clock, time was standing still. The next hour was a strange delirium. My brain raced with new ideas for achieving my lifelong dream, a perpetual motion timepiece. My legs were as supple and tireless as an 18-year-old's as I climbed the stairs to look at my wife, frozen in the act of turning in her sleep. My sister-in-law caught in the middle of a snore. Towards the end of the hour, I returned to the shop. A quick stab of terror prodding at me. Was this to be forever? Poor Jake. Still sat in the middle of the move he had started almost an hour ago. The hands of all the clocks pointed to exactly 12. Except the hourglass. There, the small hand stood directly at 13, while the minute hand swept closer and closer to join it. With a sense of mounting excitement, I waited for their junction. Like the other clocks, my strange new one had only struck 12 before. Now I felt I knew the reason for 13. The extra magic hour of precious time that twice a day it offered to its owner. With bated breath, I waited for the proof. The missing chime. And then it came.
Directly set us up here tonight to get me off my game. I concede.
Don't you want some more time to think it over?
Oh, it wouldn't matter if you gave me an hour to consider it. Tonight I'm too bushed to think. Just 1 minute after 12. We've only been at the game 10 minutes or so, and I feel as if I've been here for 70.
Is it really only 10 minutes?
You're the clockmaker, Ethan. Look all around you at your little markers.
Yes. Yes, you're right. So it's true.
You feeling all right?
Never better. Why?
Well, you look a little strange for a minute. Matter of fact, Ethan, I've been meaning to mention it. I'd like to have you drop around to the office someday soon.
What for?
Well, you're not as young as you were, you know. And you've been pushing yourself pretty hard lately. Want to make a date now?
No, I'll call you.
No, don't forget.
No.
Yeah. Now, there's something I wish all my patients were as healthy as.
Yeah, 20 years since I started that old avocado tree in the window.
And like Topsy, it just grows.
Don't you believe it? Oh, that took a lot of tender, loving care. Watered just right, pinching it back, bringing it along to grow up right. Just like the child. I love that old tree.
Well, listen, man's got to have something to love.
Yeah, I reckon. Oh, you don't think there's anything really wrong with Henny, do you?
No, I don't. Just another of her eternal spells. Well, night, old friend.
Rain stopped. Good night, Jake. For a long time after my old friend drove away, I stood by the door, gazing into the cool, crisp night. I didn't notice the cold. I was too full of a kind of welling excitement inside me. What a gift that clock had brought me. The dreams were building like castles in my head. Why, I was richer and more powerful than a king. Well, now I knew, no matter what, that for 2 blessed hours every day, from now on, I was a free man. And the last thing I heard that night, as my head hit the pillow, was the triumphant beat of the clock sounding in my inner ear. Or was it the sound of my own heart?
How is she, Doctor?
I don't know, Harriet. Now, I don't mean to alarm you, but I think we'll put your sister Henrietta in the hospital for a few days for observation.
Well, what's the matter with her?
Well, that's what I wanted to put her in the hospital for. Find out.
What do you suspect it is?
I don't suspect it's anything. I just want to reassure myself. Now, why don't you go up and keep her company while I talk to Ethan?
Oh, you won't have any trouble convincing him. I don't see why I can't take care of her.
Well, you can't this time, Harriet. If you want to help, go sit with her. I'll make the arrangements with Ethan.
How's Henny?
I want to put her in the hospital for a few days, Ethan.
Oh, she's that sick?
I'm not sure. Whatever it is, this is not just one of her spells. I want her under observation for a while.
Well, whatever you say, Jake.
I wish I knew what to say. I feel a little guilty. Ever since that night a few weeks ago when we were playing chess.
What do you mean, guilty?
Well, damn it, for 20 years I've been medicating her imaginary ills. I wonder if maybe I got careless that night.
Huh?
Well, there's no doubt that from then on, this debility, anemia, whatever it is, started. Well, I'll get along and make all the arrangements. I'll phone you when to expect the ambulance.
I had my own guilt nagging at me. In the months since I'd discovered the secret of the clock, I'd thought of pretty nearly nothing else. I waited as eager as a child for those 2 stolen hours every day. Not only for the relief from Harriet's nagging and poor Henrietta's everlasting complaints, but for the lift, the joy, the youth and vigor that they brought me. For I'd gone one better than Ponce de Leon. For part of a day, anyway. I had found the fountain of youth. But a wave of shocks was about to jolt me back to reality. The first was Henny's being taken to the hospital. The second was the morning the clock stopped. Oh, no. No. No.
What is it,
No,
Ethan?
You can't stop.
What is it, Ethan? What's wrong?
The clock, it stopped.
Oh, is that all?
I've got to get it started.
Oh, you shake it like that, it'll end up in pieces. Good riddance. I told you it was a waste of money.
Get out of here.
How dare you talk to me like
get
that?
out!
Oh, I certainly will. Nobody's going to talk to me like that, particularly not you.
I was frantic. My golden hours of solitude gone. My extra gift of precious time and the rebirth of youth. I couldn't let them go. There must be some way to bring them back. Start that damned intricate mechanism again. Clock was dead. Its lifeblood somehow drained. Blood. But that's what started it in the first place. Maybe... Oh, damnation. I'll let it ring. I've got to find something to... Oh, all right. Hello?
Ethan, it's Jake.
Oh, Jake. Look, I don't want to talk now.
Oh, then you've heard.
Heard what?
About Henrietta?
Oh, she's not...
I just got back to my office and got a message from the hospital. I'm afraid she's passed away.
Oh, are you sure?
Well, I'm on my way to the hospital now, just on the outside chance. Better meet me there.
I'm on my way. We were too late. Henny was gone. With no goodbyes. I sat by a nurse's desk, waiting for Jake to complete arrangements and drive me home. A young nurse came down the hall with a tray of blood samples, putting them on the desk. She came towards me.
Mr. Vigil?
Yes, nurse?
Dr. Royce asked me to tell you he'll only be a minute or two.
Oh, thank you, nurse. As she walked away, my eyes following her blindly, then I was looking at that tray of blood samples. Blood. It was Henny's cutting her finger that started the clock. Would that be the answer? I acted without thinking. In a moment, I had slipped one of the tubes into my pocket. And I was back in my seat before Jake came striding down the hall. I was back in the shop at last, alone. With shaking fingers, I lifted the lid, exposing the brain, or whatever it was, of the clock. Uncapping the tube, I poured in the blood. I looked at the dial. The hands were spinning around to the proper time. And then the clock was alive again. Its heart was beating.
It would have been better, far better, had Ethan left it for dead, as we shall see when we return shortly with Act 3.
We knew we had a good thing going, but we're absolutely delighted that you know it, too. I'm Hy Brown, producer of Radio Mystery Theater, saying thank you. Thank you for those thousands of letters. Our prize drawing is over now, and I wish I could thank each of you personally. But here's the rub. So many of you ask questions about all sorts of things having to do with radio that sifting through the letters will take weeks. So here's a suggestion. If you need a quick reply, do write again, just the question this time, and we'll try to answer right away. Send it to Mystery Theater, Box 5152, Radio City Station, New York 10019. That's Mystery Theater, Box 5152, Radio City Station, New York 10019. And again, thanks so very much for your fabulous encouragement.
This is WOR New York, your station for the Mystery Theater.
Hello, this is Joe Franklin. Ladies and gentlemen and boys and girls, for the very latest in nostalgia, for the ultimate in remembering, please join with me on Saturday nights from 9:05 to 11 o'clock, where memories are truly happening right here over WOR Radio. It is my privilege to present radio's original Memory Lane program, but positively the original. And whether it's Al Jolson or Benny Goodman or Louis Armstrong or Eddie Cantor or Harry James or the Dorseys, Mario Lanza, Gene Krupa, the young Frank Sinatra, George M. Cohan, Bing Crosby, Bogart, Lombard, Cagney, and all those happy times of radio's comedy and drama and soap opera. We have it fascinatingly, and all the sounds are reproduced crystal clear Saturday nights from 9:05 till 11 over WOR Radio. Yours truly, Joe Franklin, hosting Memory Lane. Tune in.
Which of us could resist the temptation of perpetual youth? Or short of that, any extension of life? 2 extra hours a day is 730 a year. Almost exactly an extra month. In a lifetime, 6 whole more years. But what Ethan Vigil forgot is that for every action, there is a reaction. For every gift, a recompense.
The saddest part of my confession is that after my wife's death, I became completely blind to everything but my 2 periods of escape every day. More and more, my sister-in-law, Harriet, took over the ordinary part of life, transforming my beloved clock shop into a nightmare against which I preferred to close my eyes.
Ethan? Ethan?
What, Harriet?
Would you mind helping me dress this window, please?
Well, what's the matter with it as it is?
If you just get away from that bench of yours for a moment and come here, perhaps I can show you.
All right, Harriet.
You know how I'm branching out now that I'm the active partner in the store.
Oh, you Jim Cracks.
Well, you might know you'd lag a mile behind the times. This is novelty jewelry, and to sell it, we must display it.
Cheap claptrap.
Now, first off, I want you to get this cheap, silly rubber plant out of the window.
Rubber plant? That's my avocado tree that I grew with my own hands.
Well, whatever it is, it takes up the whole window. I want it out of here.
No, sir, not my tree. It needs the sunshine it gets.
But what use is it?
Tarnation. Does everything have to have a function? It's beautiful. It's balm to my soul. That's enough reason for its existence. Besides, it don't cost nothing, so you leave it alone.
Oh, very well. But I must have somewhere to display my costume jewelry. Oh, let's move that ugly old hourglass clock somewhere else. Why does it have to be right beside your bench where every customer comes...
Harriet, I'm warning you. You leave that clock where it is. Don't you ever dare lay a hand on it, you hear me?
Oh, my, aren't we touchy? Well, just let me remind you of something, Ethan. With Henrietta gone, her share goes to me, so I am 2/3 of this store. I can have it any way I want to.
Over my dead body. You can do what you want with all your cheap, tinselly stuff, but you keep your hands off that clock.
Oh, heaven's sake, all right. Don't you have an appointment with Dr. Royce?
Oh, no, I forgot. Gotta get right over to his office.
Okay, Ethan, you can put your shirt back on. I'm all finished examining you.
Well, what's the verdict?
I couldn't be more pleased.
You approve of the shape I'm in, huh?
Well, before Henrietta died, I don't mind telling you, I was plumb worried about you.
Oh.
Your heart was acting up. I didn't like your blood pressure. And there was a lump in your belly I could palpate big as a grapefruit.
And now?
Now I don't even need the x-rays I took. Know it before I see him. It's practically noon. Now go on. You don't need a doctor. Get out of here. Let me get around to the sick people outside who do.
As I went into the outer office, I glanced at the electric clock on the wall. The hands clocked to noon as I did so. And I was looking at a, by now, familiar scene. The nurse who had risen to escort the next patient in was suddenly transfixed, halfway up from her chair. A child about to scream remained with face contorted, the scream not yet uttered. A thought crossed my mind. It was a month since I had fed the clock that first transfusion. I went into Jake's small lab, opened the refrigerator, I helped myself to a blood sample and left. Back at the store, the only sound was the beat of my clock. It seemed a little labored to me, but for the moment I was too furious to see what Harriet had been at since I left. Draped all over my avocado tree were festoons of cheap tin and glass jewelry, and Harriet, the superior smirk on her face, was caught immobile in the act of adding more. I choked back my anger because suddenly, before I could move, the clock beat died.
Why, Ethan, how'd you get back so soon?
What are you doing to the avocado?
Well, since I can't take it out of the window, I thought I'd just use it as a display tree.
You leave that alone. As long as it's there, no one moves that or touches it, except me. You understand that?
Well, you certainly don't have to be so abusive.
Get away. Get out of here. Leave me alone.
Oh, when you're in a mood like this, I'm glad to. I'm sorry to tell you that your precious clock seems to be out of order again. I hope this time it's broken for good.
Good riddance. Poor old tree. But first, some special oil for the magic lamp. Please, God, you'll still run again. And time stood still again. The pattern for the next months of my life was set. The part of it in my waking moments was only a necessary bridge between the long hours of infinite relief and accomplishment my clock brought me each noon and midnight. My designs for my perpetual motion mechanism were completed. I had already started to build it. That was my real life. Although I found to my dismay that the clock seemed to demand more and more frequent transfusions to stay running. But these were easy to steal from Jake's office in the hours when time stood still. Then once again, events caught up with me. Oh, Jake, just a moment. What are you doing here this time of night?
Well, the evening's young. I thought a chess game might get some things off my mind. What were you frowning at in the window when I passed?
My plant there.
The avocado? Oh, yeah. Looks a mite peaked.
I can't understand it. It's been wilting and drooping day by day. No reason. Are you any good at diagnosing vegetable life, Jake?
Nope. I'm beginning to think I'm not much better with humans. I wish I knew the secret of your spurt of youth. Think I'm getting old.
You're not yourself, Jake. What's wrong?
I don't know. In a way, it goes back to Henrietta's death, or seems to.
What does?
Well, I never said too much about the way she died at the time, Ethan.
Congestive heart failure, you said?
Oh, that's true enough. That's a condition that produces an end to living. But what caused it?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking myself. And I have no answer. Oh, tests were run and the pathological evidence was clear enough. But in spite of massive transfusions, we couldn't stop Henrietta's blood from simply disintegrating. Quite literally turn into water.
And that's unusual.
Abnormal. Never seen a case like it before. In the last 3 months, I've lost 3 of my patients to the same sort of, what shall I say, same sort of malady. I might have seen it developing, except for a strange thing.
What?
Well, all of them had been to my office and had routine blood samples drawn for physical checkup.
And the samples didn't warn you?
There weren't any samples to examine. Unaccountably, they disappeared from my office. And one other strange coincidence. The night your wife died, a blood sample for a patient in the hospital disappeared.
And that patient died later?
Yeah, about 4 weeks later. But I don't know why I'm worrying you with all this. It's none of your business.
But it is.
Huh? Oh, you mean as far as Henrietta is concerned?
No, I mean much more than that.
Ethan, what is it? I didn't mean to upset you like this.
I'm not upset. I mean, I just want you to understand.
Understand what?
That I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, you're a good friend, Ethan. And I guess I don't feel like any chess tonight now. I'll run along.
Jake.
Yeah?
I never asked before, but do you remember exactly what time Henny died?
Oh, about 25 to 12, I think.
I didn't have to think. I knew it all now. That was the precise moment that evil clock first stopped. So it was a monster, insatiable, that once having tasted blood, continued to suck on its victim till it had drained all life away. And I was no better, no less evil. I had been feeding this mechanical vampire at the cost of other human lives. In a daze, unable to explain to him, I saw my old friend Jake out and turned to face what I had to face. The shop was dark as I walked to the clock. My ears were so attuned to it by now that I'd been aware that it had started to labor and needed a fresh transfusion. I was more than a little mad by now, as in the dark I said to it, "Die! Damn you, you devil! Die!" My moment of triumph was brief. I still had my own expiation to make. Not only for my wife, but for all those others. And there was a personal sadness as my hands in the darkness traced the form of my perpetual motion machine, which would never be completed now. A man without love, wife, or children would like to leave a small footprint on the sands, his gauge to immortality. All I would leave now was a sick avocado tree I had nourished for 20 years for nothing. And then suddenly, I heard stealthy footsteps and pulled back into the shadows. Harry.
Oh, I thought you'd gone to bed.
What are you doing to the plant?
Oh, why, it's just some food to make
Let me see. It's a weed killer. You've been poisoning my tree. Why, you...
Don't you touch me.
Get away from it. Get away.
Look what you've done. I've cut my hand. It's your fault. But finally you've smashed up this ugly old clock for good. It's dead. Just as dead as your precious avocado tree is going to be. And don't think you can save it. I knew you'd never agree to take it out of the window, so I've been poisoning it for weeks. It's as good as dead right now.
And so were you, Harriet. So were you. Her blood had started the damn thing again. But this was to be the last time. What is there left to say? I have to watch another human being die. Slowly, inexorably, unable to arrest the inevitable. And even though it is someone I despise, my guilt is in no way lessened. The only pleasure I can take is that as Harriet sinks, so does that remorseless, evil, damnable machine. And once its heart is stilled, I shall destroy it forever. The one element I have not tried against it is the enemy of the devil. I shall take it, chained to my body, when we go to our grave in the river, to share it for eternity. As I finish this confession, to mail to my good friend, Dr. Jacob Royce, I can hear the evil thing labor, about to die. It's time for me to write the end.
So be warned. If you should by any chance come across a clock in a curio shop shaped like an hourglass with a dial that bears the number 13 instead of 12, shun it like the plague. I'll be back shortly.
Hello, mystery fans. This is the Creeping Claw. Yes, this is the Claw, and I'm coming your way. I'm coming your way, and I'm gonna get you.
Oh, I'd love to play the lead in one of those mysteries. This is Gene Shepherd, gang, and I'm here to tell you that there's been a great time change here on WOR. And from here on in, I'm going to be heard every night. There's been all kinds of phone calls about it, so here's the answer. Every night at 9:15, Monday through Friday. Gene Shepherd, better known as the Creeping Claw.
Good evening. I'm Patricia McCann. Dora McCann and I hope to have the pleasure of your company this week from 11:15 a.m. to 12, Monday through Friday. And let me tell you what we've got planned. Food prices have gone up again, so tomorrow we'll talk good, cheap food and how to make it taste. Then Tuesday, the day we've set aside for our ongoing nutrition series, our guest will be Diane Buckman, and she'll tell you how to use herbs to make everything from your own cosmetics and perfume to a natural tranquilizer. Then on Wednesday, we're going to get tough. Our guest will be Ralph Sharrell, a lawyer, a consumer, and a complainer, and he wants to tell us all how to get satisfaction from Ma Bell, Con Ed, and the local TV repairman. Thursday, Dora McCann interviews a lady who does a lot of ad-libbing in the kitchen, who doesn't think you should be uptight about a lot of the old rules and regulations. Her name is Glenn Andrews. She's author of Impromptu Cooking. And then last but not least, on Friday, you'll hear Muhammad Salam, who'll talk about his Middle Eastern restaurant, the Tripoli restaurant here in New York, one of the best. Have we got a date? Monday through Friday, the McCann program right here on WOR.
Oh, the fascination of time and man's never-ending quest to hoard it, to stretch it, to borrow an extra portion for himself alone. As I sit watching the clock ticking away, I, too, have that irrational impulse all of us have felt sometime to hold back the hands and bring time itself to stop. And then I remember Ethan Vigil, and I decide that once around is enough for all of us. Our cast included John Beal, Grace Matthews, Bryna Raeburn, and Ian Martin. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. And now, a preview of our next tale.
Deeply, hopelessly, irrevocably in love.
Now, my boy, I've been a publisher a long time. I've talked to dozens of authors. They all fall in love with characters they've created. It happens all the time. She didn't exist before you created her, did she?
She exists now.
Good heavens, man. She came out of your mind. She has no life except the one you gave her.
Maybe she did come out of my mind, but now she's got a life of her own.
Well, in a manner of speaking, of course she has. And I want to prolong that life, Stephen. I predict great success for Clarissa. And for you. You and Clarissa are one, you might say.
No, we are not one. We must never be one. I want her dead.
This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
The WOR Mystery Theater was brought to you by ShopRite Supermarkets, where you get a lot more for a little less, and by Suburban Savings, with offices throughout North Jersey. The preceding Mystery Theater program was furnished by the CBS Radio Network.
John Wingate here. You have a problem? Money, stocks, medical, or whatever. Then join me, weeknights at 10 p.m., for the Wingate News Digest. News is simpler than you think. It's what affects you, your pocketbook, your job, your pension, all those things. These we cover, plus all hard news. The Wingate News Digest, weeknights at 10.
Be sure you join us again tomorrow for the Mystery Theater, right after the Fulton Lewis News Commentary, Monday through Friday, here on WOR. The news is next with Bert Wilson, a full 15-minute wrap-up. WOR New York, an RKO General station.
Thank you for listening to and showing your support for my podcast. If you would like to receive notifications of when new episodes are posted, please subscribe to my channel. Subscriptions are 100% free, and they really help me get an idea of how I'm doing. Well, hope you enjoyed, and until next time, stay safe, wish you well, and as always, peace.